What's up, guys? Live here with Pro Play Games, Machado here, and I'm coming at you with my top 32 Las Vegas regional deck profile. We played Frieza at this event. I mean our team pretty much was all on Frieza, with the exception of Eddie and Marcel. Marcel taking the event with Vegeta. And we piloted something very similar to what we played at Kissimmee, Orlando, the last regional that we dominated. The thing is, we were very comfortable with the deck. We tried other versions of the deck and other leaders as well, but we pretty much went with the mentality, if it wasn't broke, then to not fix it. So we made a few little modifications that we thought were a pretty good metagame call for what we were expecting to see in Las Vegas, and this is pretty much what we came up with. So without further ado, I'm not going to keep you guys here too long with my reasoning, but we played 4 Majin Energy Boosted Majin. Fantastic card. I mean, it's Upstart Goblin for you Yu-Gi-Oh players. 1 mana, draw a card, and you know, that's pretty much it. It's a 5k boost, so you can protect yourself later in the game. So excellent card. Another one. I consider this a 1-drop, even though it's obviously a 3-cost card. It's the Destructive Occupation Frieza. Destructive Occupation Frieza is one of the cards that are similar in every color. Every color has one except for green. It's pretty much a combo card, a 10k combo card for 1 energy. You can combo it out to, you know, to cost 10, and it summons itself off the combo, so it will come in tapped. It is vulnerable in that position because then your opponent can attack it, or if you do it on your turn to combo out, which you normally don't do in this deck, then you really can't attack with it. It'll just stay tapped, and then your opponent has the chance to attack it, and then it has to live during your turn. So what we really liked about this card is that we didn't feel bad in this deck. Sometimes you don't want to have the only yellow cards in this deck just be Cold Bloodlust. Sometimes, like drawing the first copy of this, you charge it and you have a Cold Bloodlust up that's free for the rest of the game. So this is something that I changed. Even though Peter played it at the beginning at Orlando, I never really was a fan of this card until I saw it in action. 15 connects on both sides of the leaders, so it forces your opponent to have an answer, and it just really just takes cards from your opponent. And it also acts as a negate for the most part, because you're defending yourself with it, and then it comes in tapped, and then your opponent automatically wants to direct their next attack towards it, which is perfectly fine, because then that means they're not attacking your life, which is very, very precious in this deck. Next card we played was Bulma. Now, Peter played 3 at Orlando, then he went back up to 4. He felt like he should have played 3. When they told me 4 on this card, I told it to a lot of our guys, and they were like, "That's crazy. You know, you shouldn't be playing 4 of a card. I mean, you shouldn't be playing 3 of a card that searches, Whis, for example. You should be playing 3 Whis and 4 Bulma." And I was like, no, I think that's completely wrong. You know, this card is only very good early game. This card I can see late game, and I'm very fine with it. But this is just a, get it out early game where I just feel really bad. So cut it down to 3. Even at 3, I was drawing like 2 Whis and 2 Bulmas or something crazy, and I'm like, dude, what's happening? So this was a card that I think it was a great call to put at 3, and I don't regret it at all. Now the next card was obviously the Whis. Now we're getting a little bit higher on our scale. These were just the 1-drops technically. Now we're going to the 4-drops. Now we did a split between the Whis, the Resting Attendant, and Whis, the Sacred Guard. Now some players opted for a 2-2 split on our team. I never really liked this card. I wasn't going as deep as the other guys by going by 6 on God Charge Vegeta. I wasn't really that type of deck. I was really capping at 5 energy, maybe 6 if you don't really want to like tap out for a golden Frieza. So I figured, like, if I saw this on turn, 3 most of the time, or objection, or maybe sometimes as early as turn 2 if you open a lot of objections, then I'd be fine just casting 1 and not having any other copies in my deck. But I really wanted the main focus of my deck to still stay Sacred Guard, even though I technically could have played 4 of this and 1 of this. I just felt with like 3 was fine. I felt like 4 was too many. I feel like people were going to play Jiren and it wasn't going to work out as good as I initially planned it for. So 3 was fine, especially with the added protection of using one of these Friezas to defend any of my weaknesses. So I felt like that was okay. Next up, we played 4 Jaco. Now, like I said, some of our team was also split on, you know, they were all playing Jaco, but some of them were split on playing negates. They thought Jaco was a pretty good replacement for negates, but I think that's kind of wrong. If you want to play negates, then play negates. Jaco's a totally different thing. Jaco helps you not get shotgunned by other decks, you know, discarding their whole hand to combo. It just makes me feel safe, and it's another 5k because this deck is very low on 5ks, especially because I was cutting down the Bulma. I wanted to make sure that I was maxing out on Jaco as well as playing negates like some of the other guys chose out of. Then we played 4 Beerus, 4 energy boosted Beerus. While we were testing back and forth, this was always in the deck, and then through testing, I was like, let me just take this out and just play 4 Frieza. But then I realized how critical this was to have in the deck, so I immediately put this back. So I realized, you know, I was like, maybe we don't need Beerus. Maybe we're just so used to playing Beerus. Maybe, you know, sometimes you got to try those things to be able to see, like for the example, the negate theory. You know, a lot of people are just used to playing 4 negates, and they don't ever think of something that can be used without negates, and then you play it, and then it's fine, you know. But in this case, this was just mandatory for the deck. It's just very good. It's so much of a defensive deck that you need answers to that you need answers for, that you really need the 3 Bears. I mean the 4 Bears. Next thing was the returning Golden Frieza. The Golden Frieza is pretty much the end of our curve here. As a 5 mana card, it's the most expensive card that we want to cast. So in this deck, you being at 6 energy is completely fine. Sometimes you'll go up to 7 to cast multiple spells at times, but I think 6 is comfortable, and Frieza's a huge attacker, and it's double strike. It's just a bigger Beerus. I think I might have been. I think I might have wanted a 4th copy a lot of times. So if I had to do something, I probably would have cut a Jaco and put a Returning Evil Golden Frieza, because the negates just made me feel very comfortable and very safe, and there was never any time that I actually played the Jacos. You know, even against aggressive decks, sometimes they're just smart and they're not going to shotgun their whole hand. They know Jaco is a thing. They respect this card, so maybe going forward you cut that down. But and then the obvious ones, the Dodorium, 4 perfect cards. It's a 10k boost. You need it in every deck with a yellow leader. Next for these are all the extra cards. Now we played 4 Beans. That's pretty self-explanatory. I think in this deck is just better than any other deck, just because you can cast, you know, one of your big drops and then attack and then go for game by taking your life, untapping mana, and then casting another. So you could see these as restore 2 energy. You know, just restore 2 instead of restore 1 in another. In other decks it would be restore 1 energy, but in this deck it's usually restore 2 energy. So it's very good. Next up for the extra cards, we played 4 Cold Bloodlust. Cold Bloodlust is just, you know, effect veiler for Yu-Gi-Oh players. It just stops auto abilities. It also takes away their permanent abilities, like Golden Frieza will not have double strike anymore. Beerus will not have double strike anymore for that turn. So an excellent card to play. I would play more if I could, but you know, there's some games that I didn't even see it. It was crazy. And then the 4 negates, the highly debatable negates. Sorry. This is something that's not necessary in the deck whatsoever. I just feel more comfortable having access to these, and if I don't need them, I just charge them. I don't see this as like precious gold, but I just do see it as a safety, as insurance. So it's something that I feel like the deck needs, especially when it's so fragile. I feel like it's a glass cannon at times. Next up for the extra cards, we played 4 Encouraging Presence Manaka. Encouraging Presence Manaka is the whole reason why I'm playing Frieza. It's just a pot of greed. It's just something that lets you net an additional card immediately, and on top of that, gives you an aggressive side at the end of the game. There was a lot of times where I would just cast this for 1 energy instead of taking the life, you know, towards mid-late game, and I would just threaten my opponent as much as possible. So this is a very powerful card in the mid-game and early game, mid-game, and late game. Objection, though, is something that's completely dead. Completely dead a lot of the times towards the end of the game. Just because you have no use for it, you already, you know, you cap out at a certain amount of energy. The only reason that you play 4 is because you want to see it very early. So pretty basic on the main deck. I'm just gonna put the side deck right over it. Let me move this actually. We felt very comfortable with it. Obviously, 50 cards. It was just something that felt very nice. Some people chose to play the God Charge Vegeta, and some people chose to play the you know, the version that I played, which just capped at 5 instead of capping at 6, because if you cap at 6, then you need like 7, 8 energy to not die on the crackback, because it's not like you're playing something that's immediately going to win the game. So as far as the side deck goes, now this was something completely different than what you're probably predicting to see or something, unless you saw the list already, but it was something that really came out of left field, and shout out to Peter Katani, who really put these cards and put these options in the spotlight for us, because if it wasn't for him trying them out, I don't think we honestly would have came to the conclusion of playing these. But it really let our deck go into a totally different angle against decks that we felt less comfortable against, and on matchups that we couldn't win with our main deck, it would be 100% covered with the side deck. You know, sometimes we sat in all 15, sometimes we sat on like 4 or 5. It really just depends. But first card in the side deck was Clan of Terror Mecha Frieza. This is the Tournament Pack 1 promo, and this is the reason why this card has shot up 2 times the amount of price. You know, I didn't even know. We were all playing the card, so I kind of expected it, but then, you know, halfway through the tournament, you know, one of the guys that I had, you know, traded for at the event, because this was so last minute. This was like, you know, midnight of the event, and then we go to the event, try to pick some up. I didn't have any with me, so the guy was like, "Oh man, you really got me on those Friezas that went up." I was like, "Oh man, that's awesome." I didn't really think. I mean, I figured, but I didn't really think, and I had no, you know, I didn't really think it would happen. But you know, a lot of our guys did well with it. The guy that played Golden Frieza also did well with it. It's a 4-drop, so it's a Beerus. It's a Beerus type card, double yellow. It's 4, and it's double strike, so it's got all the same attributes as Beerus, but the auto is, instead of destroying a battle card, it looks at your opponent's hand and takes a battle card and puts it on the field rested up to 1. So you can choose not to. It's very good at information, and knowledge is power in this game. If you know how your opponent's going to combo or what type of cards they have in their hand, and being able to take that 10k from their hand and then just aggressively attack it or play like a removal spell right on top of it was just extremely valuable. So this is a card that came in a lot, especially against aggressive matchups. Next was Ginyu Force Goldo. Now, you know, the whole backstory to this deck, I called it a Frieza Ginyu deck. I was partly trolling, but at the same time, it was like, because we played Goldo, and Goldo was such a huge part of this deck. This was being able to just play defensively and be, also you could play aggressively in the early game when you're awakened and don't want to give your opponent extra cards. So it was an aggressive card as well as a very defensive card, because it has the blocker attribute and it always stay there on the board, and your opponent really didn't have any way to, you know, interact with it unless they wanted to waste a Beerus or a Golden Frieza on it. But extremely good card. It's yellow also, so it was very good for charging and you know, in the late game or whenever you didn't really have any use for it. And it's just a very powerful card. Did wonders for us, and I really wish I would have played 4, honestly. But did not have any space. Probably would have cut one of these, just like Peter. I would have cut this for like a 4th Goldo. But next card was the Mecha Frieza, the Returning Terror from set 1. Now this is very similar to Beerus as well. It does have the same. It does have the same casting cost. Double yellow at 4, 1k boost. Now, this one has dual attack, though. It's only 15, so with Sensu Bean, sometimes it's very good because you dual attack, keep the Sensu Bean is 20 hitting twice, which I did a lot of times, to be honest. But it's very good against multiple attacker decks, especially decks like, you know, I played a Ginyu Force deck at the event, and this was extremely good against them. And, you know, I was sided in against some miscellaneous matchups where I felt my opponent was really going after me more than what they should be, so if they played very aggressively, this was a card that would punish them a lot. And even if they do Cold Bloodlust, it's not that bad. On the follow-up, you just don't swing with it, and on your turn you can do other stuff. But this is an extremely good card, especially if it lands without a Cold Bloodlust and you're facing down a dual attack double striker that has a built-in removal package on it. Next card was the Full Power Frieza. Now this is a card that, you know, Peter really was so adamant about, and it ended up showing its power, its full power, no pun intended, at the event. It was extremely good in matchups that I didn't really think it was very good against, and you know, despite all the removal going around, as long as you played this smart and had a Cold Bloodlust behind it, it's pretty much unbeatable. It has triple strike, so you could actually go for game on this. I actually played this, and then my opponent immediately Cold Bloodlusted this, and I was just like, okay, now I can just pass with it, and I'm super okay with it because it has blocker, and because it has an auto ability that anytime it activates its blocker, it switches into active mode. So it's something that can block your opponent's entire assault against you, and it's something that really puts them at a point where they really can't run over it. It's literally just a wall, and a Sensu Beam with this even makes it even more out of control. But extremely good card. It won me a lot. It single-handedly won me a matchup, and it was very good against other matchups too. So final card was 3 Crusher Ball. This is something that Peter only played 2 of. A lot of the guys only played 2 of, but it's something that I'm happy that I played 3 of. It's just very good against decks that sometimes drop bombs. You just tap it and then you're able to go after it. Crusher Ball is just very good, and it's yellow. You know, all these cards are yellow, so it makes your deck a lot more fluid at times. It doesn't make it as I don't think it's control-y, but you can do so many more things with double yellow, and you feel just so much more comfortable. That's the only thing. These are all double yellow, so it puts a strain on your yellow, but when you put in the whole package, it runs very smoothly. And that was a whole deck that Peter was actually testing that he was going to take to the event, but we decided to go with just a mono blue main deck instead. And this ended up working extremely well because this was already a deck that we already knew was going to do well. So I feel like this sideboard strategy of just siding into a completely new deck just really caught off a lot of our opponents, and it actually paid off for us. So super cool idea, and shout out to them. Shout out to Chris Bella for the main deck. A lot of ideas on there. Justin Rios, he made me change a lot of things in the deck as well. I didn't go exactly with their exact build. I went with things that I really thought very adamantly about, and then shout out to Peter with the sideboard, because that was just truly the masterpiece of the deck and really got us there. So other than that, thank you guys. Shout out to everyone that I met at the event. I had very good opponents. I don't remember one of my opponents. He posted very adamantly about playing me at the event. I think that was his only loss, and he did very well. He was a green-blue Mecha Frieza player. He was a great opponent. Another notable opponent was Josue from Top 32. I lost him. It was the starter deck Goku deck, green-blue, and he knew the deck and the matchup very well, and that was the most challenging match that I had, and the only match that I feel like I honestly lost that tournament, despite me losing another match that I feel like was more on me than my opponent. But he did extremely well. He ended up losing in top 4, I believe, and he took down another 2 PVG players in the top cut too. So highly respected opponent, and other than that, it was a great time. Glad to have my second top 32 in this game out of the only 2 regionals that I've attended, and I played in the 1K with the same deck. I ended up finishing 8th place after the 1K. I received a round 1 loss for being late, and then I ended up going 6-0 or 5-1 or something, and then made the top cut. And then they didn't want to split. I wanted to split and just enjoy Vegas, but they wanted to play it out, so we played in. I won the top 8, and then we made it to top 4. I lost the top 4 to Timothy, and he was a very good player as well. And that's pretty much it. That's the deck profile, and the same pretty much deck that got me an X2-1 record in Orlando, and then an X1-1 record in Las Vegas, and then both took me 6-0 in Orlando, and then 5-1-1 in Las Vegas 1K. So really good deck, but I don't know if I'm going to keep playing it. We're going to see you guys in Richmond. We're going to go back to the Hyperbolic Chime Chamber. We're going to keep doing some deck profiles. We're going to keep testing, and we're going to see what's going to be best for there. But Other than that, see you guys there. Thank you guys for the support, and we'll catch you later. Peace.